If you are experiencing learned helplessness, it's not because you're not trying hard enough. It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated or entitled or all the other things that I'm sure you've said to yourself. It's because you haven't had the information that you needed to build a life that actually works for your ADHD brain. Hey, welcome back. Happy New Year. My name is Jorie Houlihan. I'm your guide for the dopamine deprived. And today is the first episode of season 2. Woohoo! All right. So I hope you all had an amazing holiday season. I definitely did. I got a little R&R, which was definitely needed. And I hope you did too. Today we're talking about something that a lot of women with ADHD experience, but didn't really have the name for it. And that is called learned helplessness. Before you tune out because you think this is about, quote unquote, not trying hard enough, I assure you it is anything but that. This is about understanding why you might feel stuck, and more importantly, how self awareness is the key to getting unstuck. If you've ever thought, why bother trying? It won't work out anyway, or finding yourself avoiding something because you're absolutely certain you're just going to fail at it, or just stopped asking for help because you figured it wouldn't matter anyway, this episode is for you. So let's dig in. Learned helplessness is a psychological concept that basically means when you repeatedly experience situations where your efforts don't produce the results you expect, you start to believe that those actions don't matter. And as a result, you stop trying. Here is the important part. It's not that you're lazy or unmotivated or any of those things. Okay. It's not that you're not trying hard enough. You're trying super hard. It's that your brain has learned, based on real experiences, that trying hasn't worked. And that makes sense, right? If you've ever tried the same strategy over and over and it hasn't worked, why would you keep doing it? The problem is that for women with newly diagnosed or undiagnosed ADHD, this happens a lot. You try a system that works for neurotypical people and it doesn't work for you because you're not neurotypical. So you work harder, you try harder, you blame yourself, you try again. And after enough cycles of this, your brain just says, you know what? We are not capable of this. But here is what is actually happening. You haven't figured out how your ADHD brain works yet. For a lot of you, you haven't figured out which systems will actually work for you. That is not a personal failing. That's just missing information. Let me give you an example. I have never been good at consistency. It's never been my strong suit. Go figure. But what I realized was that part of this was I also have pretty strong all or nothing thinking, right? So if I'm trying to do something consistently every day and I miss a day, my brain says, oh, well, see, didn't work. Moving on, because I didn't do it one day. And my brain at that point says, well, we're just not going to continue. So once I realized how all or nothing thinking was playing a role in that, I started to say, well, who says I can't just start this again tomorrow? Like, what's going on here? Why am I doing that to myself? And I immediately felt this pressure lift off my chest. I was like, oh, I don't have to do it every single day. I've always felt like I had to because I knew if I missed a day, I wouldn't continue. But that is because of my all or nothing thinking. And now that I better understand that, I know that I can just pick this up the next day if I have to. Okay. So prior to that, I just thought I was broken, right? I never follow through on anything. I'm never consistent. No wonder I can't do anything. And yes, you do need to be consistent to a certain extent to have success in things because you have to keep doing it so you can get better at it, right? But again, that all or nothing thinking was like, well, you missed a day. And also understanding that this plays a role also in my perfectionism and that often that was why I would stop and sometimes not even start because I was afraid, well, why bother if it's not going to be perfect? See? All kinds of things I learned once I better understood my brain. So I was able to create systems that had a little bit of flexibility in them, just enough that I could say, you know what? I can't do this today for whatever reason. I am going to pick it up tomorrow. And more often than not, I actually do now. I don't feel that pressure. So it turns out all I really needed was a different approach. And that is where self awareness comes in. With my private clients, I start with self awareness because it is that important. There is no point in doing anything with this if you don't actually understand how your brain works, right? So, self awareness in the context of ADHD means understanding number one, how does your ADHD actually show up for you? Not me, not anybody else, not what you read on the internet, for you. What are your specific patterns? When is your best focus time? When do you hyperfocus? Do you even know what hyperfocus is? Because some people don't. When do you procrastinate? What triggers that? What kind of tasks drain you and what kind of tasks give you energy? Where do you struggle the most? Number two, your strengths. And I mean this seriously. A lot of women with ADHD spend so much time focusing on what's hard that they don't actually know what they're good at. And you're actually good at a lot of things. You wouldn't have gotten this far in life without some kind of skill set. Right? You have capabilities, and self awareness helps you to see what those are clearly. All right. And without the shame filter. We don't do anything with shame here. Okay. Take that somewhere else. Actually, just get rid of it altogether. That would be great. Thanks. All right. Number three, your patterns and your triggers. What situations make your ADHD symptoms flare? Right? Like for me, if I'm tired, oh my goodness, right? If I have too much on my plate, definitely causes a lot of overwhelm. What times of the day are you most functional? What environments help you focus? What kind of relationships or work situations drain you? So when you know these things, you can then begin to work with your brain instead of constantly fighting against it. Without self awareness, you are basically trying to build a life that works for someone else's brain. Let me say that again. Without self awareness, you are trying to build a life that works for someone else's brain. And then you're frustrated when it doesn't fit. With self awareness, you can build systems, routines. Yes, I said routines, and strategies that are designed to work for you. Nobody else, just you. So let me give you an example. I have terrible out of sight, out of mind. Terrible. It's just, yeah. But I was convinced that I would never find a planner that works for me. And because I would use it for like a half a day and then I would get frustrated with it for one reason or another. And then I would like just never look at it again. And then a couple years ago, I saw an ad for one that was very unique. And I thought, no, nope, we've been down this road. Don't do that. But this one was different. And it was different for two reasons. Number one, it was a planner I had never seen before, but also I better understood my brain. And I understood that out of sight, out of mind is a problem for me. And this planner solved it. And I thought, all right, well, you know what? We'll see where this goes. And I have consistently used this planner for 2 years now. That is the longest I have ever used a planner. But the reason it works is because I can see the month and the week at the same time. So I don't have this out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to be flipping pages back to where's the year? When did I plan to do this? What's going on? And it's all right there. That was a huge thing. And it was such a small change. But it was because I better understood that I have out of sight, out of mind, and I need everything where I can see it. Otherwise, I get frustrated and I don't use it. So think of some things that even if you're really early in your diagnosis, things that you've already started to realize impact you in terms of ADHD, and what are some things that you might find work differently now that you understand that? Because sometimes the neurotypical way isn't necessarily a wrong way. I mean, it's great for them, but sometimes it's just we just need to tweak it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about learned helplessness. And I'm going to paint some pictures of what this could look like for you so that you can recognize it if this is happening for you. And again, there is no judgment with any of this. Okay. It would be weird if you didn't have this, if you have lived with ADHD your entire life and it went undiagnosed most of your life. Okay. It would be weird that you didn't have some of this. Avoidance. You know something needs to be done, but you don't even start because you're convinced it won't go so well. So you just avoid it. And avoiding it feels safer than doing it and failing because you're convinced you're going to fail. because you have probably tried something similar in the past and it didn't go well. Not asking for help. Okay, so maybe you have asked for help in the past and you felt dismissed. Maybe even somebody made fun of you for asking for help for that particular task. Like, why do you need help with that? That's easy. Or you've tried to implement someone's advice and it didn't work because, well, they were neurotypical and you're not. And so now you just don't ask. You assume people either won't understand, they'll make fun of you, or they won't care. The other reason you don't ask could also possibly be if you're like me and you have the trifecta of ADHD, being Gen X, and the firstborn daughter. Asking for help feels impossible for us. Anyway, I digress. The next thing, dismissing your own capabilities. This is a big one. Someone compliments you or points out something you did well, and you immediately respond with, yeah, but, or, oh, that was just luck, or, well, anybody could do that. You can't actually receive the feedback because you don't believe it about yourself. Just something to think about. Giving up before you start. Now, this is similar to avoidance, but this is more about mindset. You think, I'm not a morning person, so there's no point in even having a morning routine. Or I'm just bad at organizing, so why bother? You have decided the outcome before you even tried. All right. And the last one that we'll talk about is staying in situations that don't work. You know that a job, a relationship, a living situation, etc., isn't working for your ADHD brain, but you stay because you don't believe anything else will be different. If you leave that job, if you leave that person, if you change your living arrangements, whatever, you just don't think it's really going to make a difference. So you stick it out, you endure it. A lot of us stay in jobs and or relationships way longer than we should, or if we're on the impulsive side of things, we jump out of jobs and relationships before we should. It is never dull in our world, is it? Anyway, regardless of any of this, none of these things are character flaws. None of them. They are all reasonable responses to repeated experiences that where trying didn't produce the results you wanted. I want to be really clear about this. If you are experiencing learned helplessness, it's not because you're not trying hard enough, as I've said. It's not because you're lazy or unmotivated or entitled or all the other things that I'm sure you've said to yourself. Ask me how I know this. It's because you haven't had the information that you needed to build a life that actually works for your ADHD brain. If you have spent years, or for some of us, even decades, trying strategies that don't work for you, of course, you've learned to feel helpless. That is a natural response. Your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It is learning from experience. It has learned that the strategies you've tried don't work. And that's true. They don't, not for you. But here's what changes. Once you start to understand your ADHD, you can start experimenting with different approaches. You can look at it like a fun science experiment. Okay, you're going to look at it through that lens of curiosity. And when you find a strategy that works for you, your brain learns something new. It says, hey, this worked. And then you can build from there. Self-awareness is the bridge. Okay. You cannot get any of these things without that self-awareness. It is what allows you to go from nothing works for me to I haven't found what works for me yet. So if you are recognizing yourself in any of this, where do you actually start? First, you're going to start with curiosity. No judgment. No judgment. All right. Notice your patterns without the shame. What have you tried repeatedly that hasn't worked? What have you tried in the past that has worked? What do you avoid? When do you feel most capable? When do you feel most stuck? Write it down. Okay. Externalize those thoughts. Write it down. Just observe what you're noticing about yourself. Next, you want to pay attention to what actually works. Even small things. Don't judge the size of your wins. If you had one day that went really well, ask yourself questions. What was different about that day? Did you get more sleep? Were you feeling less stressed out? Was the environment different in some way? Did you have more time? Start noticing the conditions where you do function well. And then next, you want to experiment. So once you have this information, you can start testing different approaches. And here's the key. You're not testing them to prove you're capable. That's not the point of this. You are capable, but that's not the point. You are testing them to gather data about what works for your specific brain and what doesn't work for your specific brain. That's it. This isn't about whether or not you're capable. You can then build your systems from there. Because once you know how you work, you can start to design a life around that. Not a life that's supposed to work for everyone else, a life that works for you. So the bottom line is this: learned helplessness isn't a character flaw, it is a natural response to repeatedly trying things and them not working. It is a signal that you just haven't found what works for you yet. And self awareness is how you get there. It is the bridge. So you're not broken. You just need information. And that's it. And you need to build it from a place of curiosity and not shame. Here's the thing: doing this alone is hard. It's really hard. You're trying to figure out your own patterns, your own ADHD symptoms, how does it show up for you, et cetera, while fighting the shame and the learned helplessness that has come from all the years of trying harder and it not working. Okay. It is a lot. So if you are somebody who is serious about taking the reins of your ADHD, then I really want you to take a look at my Clarity and Action Intensive. This is exactly why I created it. This is a premium one-to-one coaching program designed specifically for ADHD women to help them build self-awareness and move out of that stuck place. We work through your specific patterns, your strengths, what's actually been blocking you, and then we build a real system for you, not some generic thing, a system that is built for you specifically, that works with your ADHD brain. So if you're ready to stop spinning and start building something that will actually work for you, that's what we do. So I will have the link for that so you can learn more in the show notes. So if that resonates and you're ready to start kicking some butt, I'd love to work with you. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you next week, where my guest will be Laurie Stern of the Real and the Woo podcast. I loved this conversation. It was so fun. We're going to be talking about ways on how to tune into your body to help you with things like emotional dysregulation, and maybe even understand your procrastination better based on things that your body's telling you. And as Laurie says, your body does come with instructions. So we just need to learn it. This is a really great episode. I really hope you tune in for it. Even if you're not totally into woo, you'll get a lot out of this episode. I promise. All right. Thank you so much for listening. This is ADHD and with Jorie Houlihan. And in 2026, ladies, let's stay curious.